Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Geek Patrol, and our microphones don't have a stun setting. Today, we're joining you from Groot's bathroom. I mean, you knew it was a low-hanging fruit. And, Allan, stay away from that big empty flower pot over there. Well, let's face it. We've always been curious how this thing operates. I mean...
No, we haven't. We know how plants operate.
Okay.
So when he's in the bathroom, he says, "I am Toots."
That's it. I quit.
Yeah. I knew this was going to be too much for Brandon, but... in any case, welcome.
I'm not worried about Groot's bathroom. I'm worried about Groot raiding everybody else's bathroom.
Yeah, really. Stay in your own lane, sir. Welcome to Geek Tank Radio, everybody.
This is
Joe
why we will
Thorderson.
never be considered a serious broadcast.
Yeah, I hope we're not. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And so Brandon, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out. You've already seen it. I am going to see it. I changed my mind.
I really don't think you should go see it.
I don't care.
I think because you don't like the first two, you don't get to enjoy this one.
Okay.
No.
I'm going to try it because you said it's emotional. And plus, I do want to, as much as I hate giving Disney more of my money, I do want to maintain the institution of movie theaters. And so this is my contribution toward that. That's how I'm justifying it in my mind.
Okay, so you're going to go see Guardians 3. A little heads up.
No spoilers.
No, I'm not gonna spoil it, but you do need to wait through the credits as per usual. But the credits seem to go a lot faster on this one than it did on others.
Okay, all right.
You still get to see everything and everybody, but it didn't seem like as long a wait as when you're waiting for the shawarma scene at the end of Avengers.
Yeah, which didn't really even pay off. So okay. And we're not going to over tease today because we think things may grow very organically. Because we're going to
Groot in the bathroom.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the writer's strike, which is currently underway, right? And Brandon, I'll be honest, I hear about writers' strikes. I don't get in the trenches like you do, but there's actually a very interesting history, and we may be reliving some of that now, which will be interesting to unpack.
Right.
Okay.
Well, this is a commercial generated solely by AI. And so this kind of sparked a little bit of a question for you, Joe, because you're like, is this really made by AI? This looks too amateur to it. Because you were like, oh, AI is so sophisticated and everything. Well, it's like, it's kind of like a baby first learning how to draw. They're going to draw their fingers like sausages. And so it's of course natural that these commercials are going to look a little bit more amateur.
Okay, well, what you didn't see, dear listeners, because it's radio, is it looked really weird. People were taking bites out of pizza in midair that didn't work, but the dialogue was very weird. What is it? Pepperoni
Hug Spots.
Okay, that's a weird name. But so this is supposedly a commercial completely made by AI. I don't know.
All right, it's a complete derivative of an entire 5-year period of time of competitive pizza ads between Showbiz and Chuck E. Cheese.
No, I'm gonna go one step further. That is a complete and utter Pizza Inn commercial back in the day when they basically had Mario standing at the top of their sign with his pizza pie.
That's true.
That is exactly like what their commercials were like.
It's like family with more cheese.
The very dark room because back in the day, in the 80s at least, you go to Pizza Hut, you go to Pizza Inn, you go to any of the places that were big, and it was dark because they didn't want you to see that they were not cleaning.
So what the AI did is kind of they took what was around them and everything, kind of like with ChatGPT. It's like, all right, I have this in mind. Do this for me. And it kind of takes from wherever on the internet and kind of just amalgamizes something.
Yep.
Well, that's what you said, Brandon. It's not like they create something out of whole cloth. They basically take a bunch of things and mix it together.
Right, and that's why, the AI art that you see today, whether it be video, music, whatever, it's plagiarism.
It's derivative, yes.
Okay, because I thought it was very interesting that Max pulls this up right at the time we're about to talk about the writer's strike because, the talk is that artificial intelligence is going to be writing screenplays and things.
That's one of their biggest caveats is to make sure that the industry is not going to try and replace them with AI or use AI to punch up scripts that have been written by people because that's a way of getting around paying the people who are supposed to be getting paid. damages residuals and everything else.
Well, that's why I thought this commercial was fake. Did you guys think this was fake, or do you think AI actually really made this?
Oh,
looks
no.
I've
I've watched enough AI created art. I've seen enough AI created music heard enough music at this point. If it's either basic rudimentary AI production or it's someone who has studied it well enough to know where the glitches are.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the timing was sort of ironic on this. That it's just showcasing, hey, we need our writers, because the temptation would be if AI writing was so good and you writers go on strike. Well, hey, we'll just we'll tell the computer to write a screenplay.
Well, we'll dive into this in a minute. But the last time we wound up with reality television, and we still haven't washed that stain off yet.
Yeah, reality, quote unquote.
Yeah,
so.
quote unquote reality TV.
Well, at that time, it was reality TV. But within 2 seasons, they had writers scripting diary room stuff, everything else. We know there's a writer's room for Big Brother. Not so much for Survivor, but that's because, they're told, go do this. They don't really care about the dialogue.
Okay, I didn't even know that show was still on the air.
Dude, that is still one of the highest rated shows on television.
Oh, so sad.
Okay. All right. Well, Max, you gave us a lot to ponder here, and we'll probably do more of that off the air, but we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to dive deep into the current writer's strike.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. What's the Klingon word for morons? The Geek Patrol is back.
What's the triple word for morons?
Yeah. I learned that. That was one of the first words I learned in Klingon. Anyway, welcome back.
No doubt.
Yeah, welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And Brandon, in Hollywood, the writers are on strike.
Yeah, and you can tell.
Why should we care about that?
First of all, you can tell that the writers are on strike because Joe's the funniest thing on TV right now. Yeah. And he's not even on TV.
Ooh.
But
yeah,
no,
imagine that.
I mean, the first thing we did get to see is that late night TV is gone.
What do you mean it's gone? They're just doing
They
reruns?
have already shut down their production on that because they need writers every day, all the time for fresh material.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So they're gone. But yes, the WGA East and West agreed, and I think it was a vote of about 98% of the members of the Writers Guild of America voted to approve the strike.
Yeah.
And they started the strike, I believe, at 12:01 on May 2nd.
Okay.
Now, I know it's only been a few days, and people are like, well, what is all this about?
Well, it usually drags on, doesn't it?
Well, the last time we had a major writer's strike was in 2007. It went for 100 days and cost the film and television industry $2.1 billion.
Because, you're making me
in
think,
lost revenue.
What I'm wondering, I don't remember how many writer strikes there's been, but, man, if you look at how much, 2007, that's a lot of years. Everything has changed since then.
Yes.
So people actually watched television back then. People, but
yeah.
And am I right in thinking, Brandon, there would have been fewer writers back in the day because there's fewer platforms. We didn't have Netflix as a thing, and
and streaming is one of the biggest problems going on right now with the writers in general,
right?
Because they don't get residuals like that. If you wrote for a television show, you get residuals every time it goes into syndication. Every time it gets shown on cable, it's just a filler. Mm-hmm. You get residuals. It doesn't really work that way with streaming. That's one of the things they're trying to get taken care of. Which would actually mean that streaming services, for the first time in history, would be made to publish their numbers.
I was about to ask you because you could actually verify if a show is syndicated. You go, okay, well, it's on in Buffalo, New York at 8:00 at night. Well, with streaming, it's like you're trusting that the services are going to give you the honest numbers.
Jack in Dubai is using a VPN to watch something that's only available in Canada, even though he's in Dubai. Mm-hmm. You can't really track that because that's what a VPN does. It stops that tracking. But even when they can track which household is streaming it, Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Max, none of those have ever had to publish their numbers. Mm-hmm. Now, when they have something that brings in a ton of new subscribers and they know it's because of that certain thing, they'll tell you, it's like, we gained, 15 million new subscribers when we dropped Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It still didn't beat, the number of subscribers you got when Mortal Kombat came out. But yeah, let's talk about that. Well, the writers aren't getting their residuals from each streaming situation. And they're not saying, all right, every time somebody streams the show that I wrote on, I need money.
Right.
But they would like something that's kind of in perpetuity with the licensing of that show to the streaming service. They also are trying their best right now to fight against the ever creeping AI monster that is showing up in everything.
Right.
And that's where the big breakdown came in the talks. Studios are trying their best right now to get rid of the writer's room. They want you to sit at home. They want you to work on a script. They want you to send it to them. Then they'll, take the 8 scripts that, would have come in for that one thing, choose whichever one's the best for the episode and go. Showrunners have always needed a writer's room because you need to be able to go, okay, we thought this would work. This isn't working. We need to cut for time. We need to trim this. We need to trim that. And you can't do that without the writers going back over the script in order to make sure it fits the narrative.
When you say a writer's room, because there could be a group of, like I know in The Office, I think there was 5 or 6, and they're in a room. Well, how do you duplicate if they're all at home?
You can't. Well, that's the thing.
I mean, you need that dynamic of bouncing ideas around, right? So.
I was watching a thing with Adam Conover the other day. He's the creator and writer and star of Adam Ruins Everything. He was kind of breaking it down. He's a major activist in the Writers Guild. He's I think he's on the board in the East Coast. Anyway. He was saying that that's one of the things they're trying to do is they're trying to break up the writer's room and turn writing from a career into a gig industry.
Oh, really?
They want it to be like Uber. It's like, I need a script. Somebody deliver it to me. And they're telling them that our budgets are so strained, we really can't afford to have all these writers. But meanwhile, David Zaslav, the CEO of Discovery and my personal mortal enemy, which, he doesn't know it yet.
You're always talking about him.
Eventually he will. He made $248 million last year for sitting on his butt and going, cancel that show. Let's do another season of that. That's all he really does, is he gets advisors to tell him what he does, what he needs to know, and then he goes out and talks about it. And yes, I will never forgive him for, passing on Caped Crusader on HBO Max. I'm getting it on Amazon Prime, so I'm good with that. But it really does come down to the fact that the CEOs of this, they are unwilling to bend to give the creators, basically, of the things they're making so much money off their fair share.
It feels like, Allan, there's a history of writers not getting the respect they deserve. I mean, to me, you come up with an idea out of thin air, and you bring that, you need directors, you need actors, you need all these production people, but if you didn't come up with the idea at first, you have nothing. So,
well,
Timothée Chalamet should not get more than the guy who's writing the script for the new Dune.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it.
I think we just triggered Allan, so yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of deep-set resentments all of a sudden bubbling to the surface here of any character takes on its own life. Every show takes on its life. Every showrunner has an effect on a show. Everybody in the room has an effect on the show. And we'll talk about what it's like to be in that room when we come back.
Because the writers, they, I don't know. That is an interesting philosophical concept, because you come up with the original idea, but then again, it grows, or it is a team effort. So I don't know.
It being a team effort is great, but when you've got union grips who are making more than the guy who scripted an entire episode of something, there's a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to dive deeper into that when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. If growing orcs in the backyard was easy, everyone would do it. The Geek Patrol is back.
The proper fertilizer is the key, I found,
The proper fertilizer is in Groot's bucket.
Well, it's a symbiotic relationship they have. So
it smells like orcs already.
It works. Hey, whatever you got to do to get the job done. So welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmstead and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And we've taken a little, we took a little break off the air. Allan went and banged his head against the wall. Brandon went outside and screamed a little bit. So they're calmed down because
no, not really.
We're talking about a very emotional topic. All of us write to a degree. Allan, you've written books. Brandon, you've written a book.
Yeah.
We all do our own.
I forget
creative writing.
sometimes I'm a published author. I mean, that's how weird the world is.
I don't know. I don't work at an entire network or television station.
So
I
I don't think Allan's calmed down yet. But so we're talking because the writers are on strike again, and we were talking about how the world has changed just since the last writers' strike in 2007. With Netflix was in its infancy, I think, if it even I think it was like back then you were getting videos.
Yeah, you could get
delivered to your house.
DVDs
Stuff.
mailed to your house.
Yeah, you were mailing stuff.
But they're on strike, and some people, a lot of people maybe in their day-to-day life are like, well, so what? But I don't know. We're all about the arts. We're all about this stuff, and this is more relevant probably to everybody's life than they think.
Well, right? A lot of your laymen out there are going, well, I mean, they work for Hollywood. They got plenty of money. These guys can't pay their rent with what they're getting paid. They're having to take multiple jobs at a time. Which, if you've ever tried to come up with one idea, imagine trying to write something for somebody else every day. Allan knows what it's like.
Yeah.
Well,
he was a publisher.
Yeah.
Writers do not. They're not living in mansions. And driving limousines.
And here's the other problem for all of the shows you love. One key word that is going to get damaged during the strike: chemistry. And it's
that's
not
interesting.
Just the on-screen chemistry. How many interviews have you seen with a major player that tells you they go hang out in the bullpen?
Good point.
Yeah.
And I'll pick on Jonathan Frakes from the very, very beginning because he had his first season on, his turn at a Star Trek character.
Yeah.
And went to a convention and discovered he was hated. So then he went to the producers, who then let him go play in the bullpen a little bit. And I think Mr. Frakes is still...
he's still involved in all this stuff.
He might still be slightly involved in Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, he just came
tangentially.
He just came off the highest rated season of Picard, where he's in almost every episode.
Yeah.
Wait out. Sorry, I just learned something. So because Jonathan, because number one was not, the first couple of years of Next Generation, they were working the kinks out, and now that you're saying it, I didn't like his character as much until he grew the beard.
Well, no. See, that was one of the things is that because of the fact that, you got it's a syndicated show, so you got your actors over here, you got your writers over there, you've got your, the cast, the rest of your crew back here behind the director. There wasn't as much gelling because with a syndicated show, you got to get all these episodes out so they can go into being aired. Once you get to have the cast, basically jam out for a little while with the writers, they realize where best to create the chemistry of it all.
Can I say, because Allan, you just triggered me. You just made me think of something. Because I'm a big fan of Alan Alda. I listened to his podcast.
Yes.
He talked about the process of how they made the show MASH. It was 100% the other way that you're talking about. Everybody hung out together. They didn't go to their trailer when they were all working together. And you talk about a show with chemistry. Right. Every character on that show.
One of the things about
chemistry.
MASH, which I watch the marathons all the time on MeTV.
Thank you for the old shot, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Dude, I loved it. But the great thing about MASH is that that mess hall that you see in all those episodes, that's where they hung out when they weren't filming.
Yeah, and they were bouncing ideas around, and plus they were getting to know each other. They said they're all like best friends.
Yeah,
and that translates onto the screen.
And it does. And when you start looking at some of these productions that are especially multiple character, all right, you have something like Quantum Leap, that is obviously a very small cast that's really got to work. Right? Because you got one guy.
I never saw that show.
Well, you've
never seen Quantum Leap?
No.
I think you'd love it, Joe.
Okay.
I really do.
Quantum, I was really shocked. I figured that was a Joe show, because you got one central character and then you have a very small supporting cast week to week, and then you swap out everybody else. You take some of your anthology shows, and you have a central cast of characters for 12 episodes. And you've got a lot of heavy lifting to do to get to the end game of your 12 episodes. You look at any of these shows that they're looking to produce, and I hate to say it, man, it is not a gig economy. No. Because if Brandon and I are going to start working on a pirate movie, Brandon and I need to know the cast. We need to know their strengths, their weaknesses. Hey, if we got a really great martial artist on there, we're going to have some fight scenes.
Yeah.
You keep triggering me, Alan. You just reminded me of something else. Because the early days of Star Trek, like we're talking the 66 back in the day.
Right.
Well, they were farming this out, which was technically, it was a gig thing for the writers.
Right.
And what would happen was a writer would come in, they write a script, Gene Roddenberry would look at it and go, okay, why is Spock suddenly joking around with people and laughing? They were written incorrectly. He'd have to rewrite it. It cost twice as much to do, cost twice as much work, and it wasn't efficient. So yeah, well, that's what you get when you get a treat
there
like
is
a
a
gig.
synergy to these shows. Even if you never ever see your coworker, there is a synergy that has to be there.
Yeah,
I want to go ahead and throw this one out to you, Joe. You saw Multiverse of Madness, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that Wanda Maximoff was a little disjointed in there from where you had seen her in WandaVision?
I'm like, how did she turn into this person? Yeah.
Because WandaVision was not finished at the time that the writers began production on Multiverse of Madness, they didn't know the progression of the show. And that's why you end up with a character that, Elizabeth Olsen was saying in an interview recently. She had to come at these, because it's two separate arcs that lead to the same place, and she had to come at it differently because it was obvious that because they hadn't been communicating, they didn't know about what was going on in WandaVision.
Disjointed's a very good word for that. Because, I mean, I liked it okay, but Wanda was one of my favorite characters in terms of I thought she was cool. I thought, but
then
she just turns into the full-on villain.
And she went from being the hero at the end of WandaVision to being the complete villain.
Okay. Well, Ben, there's even more to unpack, and we're going to do it when we come back here on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. They put on their stormtrooper armor one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. The Geek Patrol is back.
See, I paid the extra money, and mine goes on the way Iron Man's thing. You just go, step in, and it
but you
envelops you.
Squeal really high pitched when it first happens, so I don't think it's worth it.
Okay. Well, it only takes a little more to go first class, Brandon.
Sith robes are so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Good point. Welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmsted and Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. And for the first time, I wisely did not over-tease the show. I have a bunch of notes here in front of me that I didn't even mention, you guys, because Brandon brought us sort of a breaking story, which is going to be with us for a while, all about the writer's strike. And boy, it's grown into a lot of. We've triggered Allan, we've triggered Brandon, Max. I don't know if he's triggered or not, but we've realized there's a lot of ramifications that are going to come out of this, right, Brandon?
Well, we're big proponents for creation.
Yeah, we respect creators.
We like artists and writers.
Right.
No matter how much you're
Even
being paid
Allan,
for it, that's
to the degree
that's what
that
you
we
are.
can,
You are an artist.
Yeah. Go ahead, Allan, because we've
All right.
get on your
One
soapbox.
of the best examples of kind of gig mentality and what you get. There was a great experiment back with Sculler and Mulder.
So
Scully, good old Mulder. Here we go. The truth is out there. They had major horror writers each write an episode one season. And
wait, what's their show called? See,
The X-Files.
The X-Files, Joe.
can you pick a show from this millennium?
No.
Or- okay, go ahead.
Well, technically, every show's in this millennium.
All right,
Well,
go ahead.
you know.
So the X-Files.
So the X-Files, but this was a great example because you had really developed characters, a really developed vibe. Then they had the show written by X major famous writer. And then they had about 3 or 4 of these. And it was very clear that it was not written by the regular bullpen.
It wasn't written by anybody who'd ever scripted for television before.
It was very clear because
So they were selling the notion that, hey, Stephen King wrote this
as a matter of fact,
episode.
he did write an episode.
Okay, I see.
He was one of them. But it was blatantly clear, episode to episode, people had similar ideas about the characters, but different enough. The shows played differently.
Yeah.
I'll give you a more recent show, Joe, and I'm going to kick it off with Supernatural.
Another show I don't
Supernatural
watch.
went.
Well, I don't watch anything.
Hold on,
but-
Supernatural.
That is both current and ancient.
Yeah, Supernatural went 15 seasons.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Okay.
if anybody, spoiler alert, if you watch the first season of The Winchesters, it's not a prequel. It's not an origin story. It's a sequel story.
Oh, that's
believe
neat.
it or not.
Okay.
But when the writer's strike hit Supernatural in the middle of season 3, they had to cut it short and basically take this, because they had the scripts for the last couple episodes, and they had to bring those forward. And I think it's only like a 12, 13 episode season for season 3. Then they came back and they finished out Eric Kripke's master outline for the original 5 seasons. And it was obvious that in the second chunk of stories that started in season 6, that they had just brought in people who were writers just to be writers. Because chemistry fell off, characters were not acting as themselves. The whole Leviathan storyline was just complete and utter garbage, and it kept giving you, we're going to go towards like Lovecraftian and stuff, and then failing, just not giving. They eventually kind of righted that ship in season 12, and and ended 3 years later.
Right.
But it was obvious that at that point they had people who were writing scripts literally just to put new episodes out, not because they were trying anything good.
What is the rule here? Because I guess what I'm wondering is, what if you've got a show that's like, I guess Stranger Things jumps to mind because so I don't know where they're at with their season 5 production, but do they have to just stop until this is over?
No, because the Duffers already have all the scripts written for season 5. They have gone into pre-production. They'll film everything they have on the paper, and then they'll. So
if the writing's done, you can move forward.
Right.
Okay.
If the writing is complete, the problem is that in a lot of shows, especially episodic shows that would be on network television,
right,
those shows, as they see their ratings start to dip, they will pivot, and the writers will find a way to get you back on board. Without the writers there's no point in going into production on those shows because you can't pivot. Because if they find out that the director is writing new scripts, that is a violation of the strike rules. Showrunners, on the other hand, have just received notice from Disney and from Warner's. Showrunners are still expected to do their job. Even if that showrunner is a writer on the show, they're supposed to do all their other work.
Do you think that this could resolve itself quicker? Because now that I'm thinking of it, these days, man, how many things disappeared during COVID, and how many things can just go away quicker because we don't pay attention to them for 6 months, and all of a sudden it's just dead. I wonder if this will get resolved quicker because everybody knows that. I am hoping
that CEOs of various companies and studios are going to look at their pocketbook and realize what happened to them during COVID, where there's no money coming in, and if there's no money coming into the business, they're the one who gets the ultimate blame. And they'll go, you know what? You're right. You deserve you deserve the fair pay, and you deserve the contract that says we won't use AI, to replace you. We'll give you your writers' rooms, and we'll get you guys back to work. I don't expect a lot of. Because I was looking at the CEOs of Netflix because they were showing how much money they made. Mm-hmm. It's like $20 and $30 million that they made through that, but they've all got their stocks, their whatever. Yeah. And then you look at David Zaslav's from Warner's Discovery, and he made $248 million. Yeah. And it's like, all right, he cut all these things because they needed the tax breaks. But then he paid himself $225 million.
Funny how they always work around that stuff. So I feel like this is going to be a show where this is going to be a situation where each week there's going to be a development. So we'll probably have to get
we will.
We'll have to stay posted on all that. So, but I generally side with the writers. Even people like Allan, I have to support. But if you create an idea out of nothing. That you go try that, folks. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's really not.
Especially something that's going to be appealing.
Week after week with a story arc and make them interesting, or at least make them palatable. Yeah. It is
because
it's not an easy road.
And give them good dialogue.
There's plenty of producers who can give you an idea, but then someone has to come along and basically Bill Finger it.
Absolutely. So we'll keep you posted on all the developments. But you guys, we're out of time once again. So until next week, we are the Geek Patrol, and I am Joe Thorderson.
I'm Allan Gilbreth.
I'm Maximilian.
And I'm Brandon Olmstead. And until the strike's over, I've got no witty quips for you.